This week on the BackTable podcast.
One of the most crucial pieces of advice that I can give is apply for the opportunity. The worst thing that happens is that you get rejected, but your name is in the committee list. For example, we're talking about things like committees, where it is notoriously difficult to get accepted to committees because of the insane high standards when it comes to the quality of applicants. So do not let one rejection get in the way of your ACOG journey. I'll share my own experience. When I was a medical student, I applied to be sponsored to the section meeting, and I didn't get in. I did not get the section sponsorship, and I was very devastated about it because I knew I wanted to get involved in ACOG. But when more opportunities came up, especially as I started in residency, I just kept applying. And through all of this, I've been very fortunate to get to the place that I have been, the position that I have been, having other different opportunities open up as well too, by nature of getting to be involved with government affairs, getting to be involved with the board of directors, getting to be involved with CREOG and the educational aspect.
Welcome back to another episode of BackTable OBGYN. I am so pleased to have today as our guest Dr. Sivani Aluru. Dr. Aluru is a specialist in comprehensive OBGYN at Endeavor Health in the Chicago suburbs. She attended college at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, med school at the Medical College of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, where she was awarded the Gold Humanism Award, and then Resident of the Year at Southern Illinois University, where she was inducted into Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Society and Education Chief Resident. I got to know Sivani through her ACOG work. She is the National JFCAC Chair at ACOG, a current member of the ACOG Board of Directors, on the Clinical Practice Guideline Committee, previously on the Government Affairs Committee, and the ACOG 75 Task Force. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming to the show. Tell me a little bit more about this ACOG 75 Task Force. I don't know what that is. I know what the other stuff is.
Yeah, absolutely. So super fortunate. This year is actually ACOG's 75th anniversary. It was founded not too far away from where I am right now in Chicago, Illinois. And we're having this grand celebration at the annual clinical and scientific meeting this upcoming spring in Washington, D.C. So I am super honored to actually get to be one of the junior fellows on the task force, representing all of the, as we say, the next 75 years of ACOG involvement. So it is a huge honor to be on the select task force that's overseen with Jen Walsh, a couple of other members of ACOG. We have some past presidents on the task force. We have the National Early Career Fellow at large, as well as other current members of the board of directors. So it's been such a great time getting to plan and put on a great annual clinical scientific meeting this upcoming year.
That's awesome. Well, I have been an ACOG member since I was a junior fellow as well. Like, I wasn't even board certified. I think I may have even joined as a resident. And tell me about your involvement with ACOG and
journey.
Yeah, journey, and like how you got to be so involved, because it's actually super impressive. Because I mean, you're only a few years out of residency.
Yeah, I'm in my second year out of practice. So I also, like you, joined ACOG as a resident. Well, I technically joined as a medical student member. And my first exposure through it was actually through our clerkship, where all of the teaching involved around ACOG, clinical practice guidelines, practice bulletins. And I knew I was going into this field. So if I was going to learn the material to build my knowledge base for patient care, I absolutely was going to join ACOG. And so my membership technically started in medical school, which is really funny to see on the website. But I didn't get involved in more of the junior fellow side of things. So just to go over definitions, a junior fellow is somebody who's currently in training or their first couple of years of practice. We are not board certified, not fully board certified to be a junior fellow. So the nice part about ACOG is they kind of built in that involvement. And I started residency in 2020. I started right when COVID was hitting. So I looked for ACOG involvement to, connect with other physicians. Obviously, the clinical education, as everything was changing so rapidly when it came to information about treating pregnant persons and more information about the COVID vaccine and how to answer patient questions, but also to connect with other people who are going through this experience. when the masks came off at our hospital, it was like 2.5 years into residency. I remember the nurses looking at me and saying, like, I don't even know what your face looked like until now, because we would see everybody with the masks on, right? So that was the connection. I wanted to meet with other people who were in my position, who are also going through this experience and jumping through this life-altering time. I did residency in Illinois, went to Southern Illinois University. So I became the program representative my intern year, and then got involved in the district level by becoming the district education chair. As education has always been my home base and one of the things that drew me to ACOG's involvement.
What did that entail to be the district education chair?
So when it comes to ACOG involvement, it's almost like the Hunger Games. They're broken up into different districts.
I know. I'm in District 5. So
you're in 5, yeah.
It's true. Totally.
We don't have a hidden 13 anywhere,
yeah. But does that?
But
are you
I'm in District 6.
So you're planning the meetings, or what does that involve?
So my couple of years as education chief, we really focused on the new virtual interviewing platform. I think I tell residents and medical students all the time, I was one of the last people to actually interview for residency in person, as in traveling across the country, meeting people. And since 2020, the majority of it has been virtual. So a lot of our education was geared at teaching these medical students, what programs are looking for. How do you make an impression when you're not actually there? So talking about things like lighting and making eye contact with the camera, what programs are looking for. So we put on a couple of virtual interviewing webinars, and then tried to work on a CREOG Jeopardy cross competition with different programs across the district, because I'm a very competitive person and I love Jeopardy. So those two kind of went hand in hand. And we're still able to put on CREOG Jeopardy events at different districts too. So
that's awesome.
We also started a book club for, at the time, making sure that we have equity in action, diversity-based education to help people in our district, different programs who the residents said they were not able to get that education as part of their didactic schedule. So we kind of built that in where people are able to join and participate in that book club to also get educational credit.
Cool. That's awesome. So then you did your district work, and then what else did you do through this, just getting involved?
I knew I wanted to get more involved, especially when it came time to attending my first Congressional Leadership Conference, the CLC, which is our big event sponsored by Government Affairs Committee in March, where everybody wears their white coat, they go to Capitol Hill, they're meeting with their senators and their congressmen and women to actually advocate for patients directly. So I saw that, and I knew I wanted to get more involved in the governance side of ACOG. So I was fortunate enough to run for district elections, all on the junior fellow side of things. So I became the District 6 vice chair and chair subsequently. And then I knew I wanted to take that and continue to advocate. So very fortunate enough to win the national election for junior fellows, because for the Junior Fellow College Advisory Council, it's made up of all of the different junior fellow district vice chairs and chairs. So we have meetings, and I get to be with my current vice chair. We get to serve on the board of directors for ACOG, really elevating the voices of junior fellows to the national level.
What do you think are, in your lens and involvement, what are issues that are particularly salient and pertinent to the junior fellows, like just historically, but also like very particular to January 2026?
Absolutely. I was in training when Dobbs fell. So that is something that we worked on extensively in making sure that different training programs, I was at the district level when this was happening, but making sure that different training programs in our district had access to away rotations for family planning. And we worked with ACOG and have been able to cultivate a really great relationship with ACOG when it comes to listening to the junior fellow concerns with travel to restrictive state, with having family planning cases on their case lists for ACOG candidates. So those are two of the major core issues that we've been able to really raise and elevate, along with the parental leave task force, which was fantastic to see ACOG's response. Currently all still working on that equity in action and care. So I'm going to use the abbreviation of CARE delegation, which is the DEI programming that ACOG has been able to implement at the district level. But it's a national initiative, because a lot of residents, as they're going through their training programs, they're so overwhelmed with their responsibilities. A lot of training programs haven't been able to build in some of the other education to really address the needs of training in this modern landscape. So we've been able to provide programming for that, and we've been able to work with CREOG for the national residency curriculum too, because one of the other major issues that junior fellows were facing is, where do I actually access the educational materials? Prologues cost this X amount of money, but there's podcasts that I'm able to listen to for free, things like CREOG's Over Coffee. So we've been able to work with them to really streamline everything in this big comprehensive rollout that's happening for the new national residency curriculum.
Oh, that's really cool. Is it all available on the app, or what's the clearinghouse for that?
It's going to be available through CREOG's resources. So right now it's available to CREOG members who are currently people in residency or training programs, and the program directors themselves. The goal is to be able to roll it out on the virtual platform, which is ACOG's new app that's being redesigned.
Oh, that's really cool. What are some things that you have discovered along your journey in terms of getting involved, or tips on how to get involved, or how to navigate it? Like, what are your pro tips, I guess I would say? Because it sounds so seamless the way you describe
it's
it.
nebulous.
But yeah, but it's like, how can you achieve these things? Like, it seems so hard, from the outside.
I think for me, I wouldn't see my job as an OBGYN being complete without being involved in ACOG. And that's always been my core driving force. So, I'm sure you're having the same conversations with patients in the exam room, where people are coming in and they are essentially trauma dumping about the current news cycle, or, oh, this is the latest research, or my friend just started this new medication. How do I know it's the right fit for me? And I find myself saying things like, well, we're working on this. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, actually, I work for ACOG as well, too. So this is an issue that ACOG is addressing, or this is something that we're working to listen to your concerns, and we're putting out, for instance, all of the questions we get about menopause on a daily basis. So I even referenced that we most recently had a CPG clinical practice gynecology committee where we discussed the newest guidelines and evidence-based research, and people love hearing that. And that's what drives me. So there definitely is opportunity to find where your fit is for ACOG. And I wanted to make sure I got my fill of everything, and I get to do that with my national JFCAC role, for sure.
Yeah, I just went through this process of running for office for SGS. I'm going to be the SGS president in 2029, 2030. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And the thing that I have to say about getting involved is, like, it's really about being present at the table.
Yes.
Contributing, being there with, you have deliverables and you deliver them on time in a timely fashion, and, contribute to the conversation, and then be engaged and volunteer
Yes.
to do things and be reliable. And it's all things that I tell my kids too. It's like, you have to be, show that you can deliver on the small things, and then you get assigned big things, and then bring ideas to the table and then execute them, and then have a record of service. Because it's so interesting, because OBGYN, we are so motivated to be advocates and to advocate for women's health, because it's always feels like we're under attack. And so I think it's like part of our culture, really. But like, what people don't understand is also the reason why we can achieve things is because of volunteerism. I mean, my kids went to public school for a long time, but it's like, the reason why the school was really good is because the parents were volunteering and making it really good as well as the teachers. And so that's what our organizations are. Like, we're made up of all volunteers, and we do all this stuff on the side. But yes, it's unpaid, but it also like fills your cup, like what you were saying about this is part of, like, you see this as an integral part. The other thing that I think people don't understand about our organizations and advocacy and all that stuff is, on the organizational side, we have the duty to be a value add. I mean, the dues are expensive. Attending the meeting is expensive.
Yes.
Taking the
100%.
time on, taking the time off to go is also expensive. And so the organizations need to deliver, but we as volunteers make it what it is. You described it so well in terms of, like, finding community there when you were feeling isolated during the pandemic, and like finding your voice together and advocating for women's health under Dobbs and after Dobbs' decision and finding other pathways because we have to basically demonstrate our ingenuity because it's been relentless. It's been relentless. It's
Oh
crazy.
my gosh, yeah.
It's been crazy.
Oh, completely agreed. And I am so fortunate to train and remain in a state where OBGYNs are protected for certain things. However, that doesn't mean that there's not work still to be done. Every day we look at insurance companies. I see a lot of perimenopausal and menopausal patients too. So I keep bringing it back to our most recent CPG meeting where everybody was going over their ways where, well, I prescribe this and this is how I'm able to tell it to insurance companies, to make sure that things are covered. So, and any aspect of not only the clinical side of medicine that you're interested in, but also raising those voices and doing the advocacy work at the local, district, or even national level, there's definitely that need. And for me, getting in these rooms and meeting people like yourself and being part of all these committees inspires me to keep going. That's my motivation, that there's still work to be done. And I need that constant reminder that we're doing everything we can, but there's still more to be done.
I love that. And I think that's the best part of the committee work. And that's why I love having you on this podcast because we got to connect and really, I thought, man, this is when you meet people like meeting you and then we're connecting, it's like, that's one of the best parts of being involved in these organizations and on these committees is making connections to people that otherwise you wouldn't meet because we're in different parts of the country. We're in different institutions, whatever. But it's actually super fun because actually the circles get kind of smaller as you get more involved. And also the other thing I have to say is the milieu it's intellectually stimulating and people are super interesting. Like Tess Kim, we had her on the podcast too, and she's doing this stuff on the innovations and bringing stuff to market and, people who are doing very cool research, your advocacy work, of all stripes and ages and expertise. And so, I find that's like the best part because you really get to hear fun stuff about like the stuff that you're doing. Because I have not been in training for a long time. So I kind of know what is very pertinent to junior fellows, but it's like the COVID and the pandemic experience. Do you think that all those scars are going to go away, or is it like just indelible? You're never going to get rid of them? Because I see my kids and I thought, oh, they're so young, they'll be fine. But it really changed a lot of things in education. What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's been more adaptations for virtual platforms when it comes to education. Just from family members that I know, I would have never thought something like a snow day when I was in elementary school. I mean, I went to elementary school in Wisconsin. We went to school regardless of the amount of snow, so very rare snow days. However, now I'm seeing from my partners who have children and then family members that even like 5 and 6-year-olds are having virtual learning at home. So I feel like the entire world had, and for my friends who went through college in the pandemic, my brother as well, and all the virtual involvement, that's definitely a need that I feel like there's still more to be explored, but people are more adapted to that now. Even the fact that we're doing this podcast on a virtual platform, I'd say about 80% of my meetings for ACOG or different committee meetings, a lot of them are done on Zoom or WebEx. Not to take a tangent, but that's been, I think, the biggest shift there. And then also the scars, I see it in the healthcare workers as well, too. I had a patient that came to labor and delivery a couple of weeks ago with a cough. And she was coming in for a medically indicated induction, but she was saying, I just can't seem to get rid of this cough. And in my head, I'm like, no, there's no way. But I'm like, let's run a COVID test. It was positive.
Oh, yeah.
So the reaction we saw, we all kind of like jumped at it when we were like, wait, SARS-CoV-2? That's the COVID that's back. But so yes, little constant reminders and putting on the PPE and finding a negative pressure room. I was like, it took me back.
Yeah, it's true. Well, how do you find the time and energy to do all the things you do? Because I mean, you listed a lot of initiatives, that you've been involved in. So how do you organize it? Because you're like a really busy person. I mean, you're staffing labor and delivery, you're in the office, you're just doing surgeries. Like, how are you doing balancing all this?
I feel like that's got to be anybody who's taking part in organization work or research work. And I say this to my colleagues as well, the second shift that parents have to experience when they go home too. For me, ACOG has grown to become my second shift. So I am a Google Calendar person. I love it. I have like 16 different calendars. Everything is color coded. And then I do my little Sunday reset at the beginning of the week, scheduling time in. We have a fantastic junior fellow services department at ACOG they work to help us, schedule meetings, send reminders, work with communication. And the people that you're on these committees with, like you said, you get to meet so many different diverse people, but you get very close with them too. So we do a great job of communicating, and everybody knows everybody's whereabouts. And like I said, it's always that motivation that people are depending on me. So I got to deliver. Plus for the joy of doing the work as well, too.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point about being organized and like really being efficient with your time is such a good point.
It's a work in progress.
Well, and also having the adequate resources. What is your perspective like now that you're in the inner circle of ACOG, like on the board level and junior fellow work? Tell me what your thoughts are.
It has been such an experience that I never thought I would get to do this. Just the people that we get to meet, like the renowned scientists in our field, but also the people that are at the forefront, the people that are on the news contributing to patient education. Like that was my experience meeting you, because I had seen your work and I had listened to a couple of the talks that you had given on YouTube as I was just preparing for everything, for the CPG meeting, but also I'd read your articles in the Green Journal. So getting to meet you, for me, I was like, this is fantastic. That is the inner circle right there. And it's a perfect example of everybody who's motivated, wants to get involved, but also to anybody listening who is a junior fellow or a medical student, that this is possible. If you keep going, you get to meet people that have played such a big deal in the OBGYN field, and you get to shape that in the future too. So
I agree with that. It is huge. And I think that you're also just like such a, like you're so excited about it. And it's just like you like that transmits into, I just constantly trying to generate ideas and be involved. And I think people want to be around that kind of energy, and so that I think is like what is so crucial about like just being a positive person and, bringing things to the table is really, really important. And I think that the other thing that is interesting to me as I've gotten more involved in all of these societies is that like, ultimately you do get close to the people that you work with, but also it's like, it's a big place, but it's actually a small place. You get to know the staff pretty well that you work with, that the ACOG staff. And actually we are so lucky because we have so many great, passionate people who support us at our organization level. I have the perception that ACOG has been, just fighting off so many different things on so many different fronts, especially it's always been like that. But post-Dobbs, it's been particularly tough, let's just say. I know you've had this government affairs experience, and I've been on.
Well, I'll tell you now, rejecting the federal funding was a huge move.
Yes.
That ACOG undertook.
Right.
We just brought up dues, so.
Yes. So yeah, that's a huge, huge deal. And I think the other things that people don't realize is, I lived in DC for 11 years and every other person was a staffer or previous staffer or something. And they basically were like, oh, well, when you lobby on behalf of the big organizations, that has impact because ACOG has over 60,000 members or however many we have. And then there are members in each district that serve a lot of people and are leaders in the community. And that really has impact because these smaller societies don't have that as much. So I think that is part of the power of ACOG. And then really just the knowledge, that's, or not the knowledge, but just the credibility of
Yes.
what people are saying from the organization. It's vetted and it's truly in the best interest of our members and for our patients. I think ACOG has always been really good about that. But I know people who never joined ACOG, and I was shocked because I just thought it was part of like being an OBGYN.
Exactly. That's how I view it too. But through my role as JFCAC Chair, we get to travel around to all the annual district meetings. So there's a group of us, we split it up. So we're actually listening. We're getting to go to the districts and hear what the members have to say to really address their needs. And I was shocked to hear that some people are also reconsidering their ACOG membership. And obviously everybody has a right to their own opinion. But with the work that ACOG has done in really, I want to say quick responses, because especially with certain things that we've seen in this past year, such as the response to Tylenol, I mean, that was rolled out within 24 hours. Certain things that have gone on the House, certain responses. One of the roles that we have as junior fellows is we kind of get, I don't want to say that everybody looks to us when it comes to social media, but we are a social media savvy generation. So the quick responses that ACOG has been able to generate from the fellow level really have resonated with people in my generation, people in my junior fellow status, even medical students, where I see people sharing the quotes and really putting that out there for patient education, as essentially we all are influencers when it comes to influencing for patient care. We're using ACOG as the standard, the gold standard, really, when it comes to reviewing the education, reviewing the literature, and then putting out the patient-facing material.
Yeah, I think that we had Kate Connors come and give grand rounds on effective communication and just what you're talking about, like combating misinformation, health misinformation,
Yes,
and
100%.
protecting. She's very, very good. And I encourage people to have her come to the district meetings and give her workshops. And then also for our grand rounds, it was really, really good in terms of how to effectively communicate, not just health, but just we're educating patients like all the time, 20 times a day,
Exactly.
30 times a day, the nursing staff, on best practices. And you know what? Best practices can change. We're talking about that on the committee level all the time. So I really, in that regard, there are so many resources. How can we make sure that we connect with our people? What are you seeing from when you do your listening tours? Because I would say that from what I can tell, my perspective is people are like, this is expensive. I don't have time. ACOG, what I see on the Facebook groups, ACOG has not paid attention to reimbursements, blah, 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 and then I don't know like what people are saying on the junior fellow level, but I think also the student debt loan, student debt burden makes it hard to want to pay for that kind of money, that kind of thing. But what are you hearing?
I think it's at the junior fellow level, the value of being an ACOG member really starts at the education aspect, with the orientation when it comes to CREOG and then having the educational materials. And for me as a junior fellow in practice, I can't imagine going through my first couple of clinics and not having access to ACOG guidance when it comes to billing and coding. So that's been something that I've kind of developed a growing passion about. And there's actually a payments podcast by ACOG. It's called Payments in Practice. And they've actually reached out to us for a junior fellow perspective. When you are a fellow and you've been in practice and you know exactly how to do things, but when you're starting to learn in training level, nobody really teaches you billing and coding. And when those lectures happen, I mean, I was a resident, I get it. You're kind of not paying attention to those lectures because you're focusing on everything else you have to do. So when it specifically comes to reimbursements, ACOG has accomplished so much this year. I think the hardest part is the communication aspect. So there's weekly rounds that come out from ACOG. They've really been promoting different podcasts as a great medium for quick, bite-sized amount of information. And then getting involved, starting at social media too. Like I said, the junior fellows are really good at this. Every residency program tends to have their own Instagram page or page on X, or different types of social media linking. And it used to be things like Facebook as well too, but Facebook pages are still very much alive. demographic-wise. So seeing what ACOG is doing to really put the word out, because this is stuff that we discuss in the board meetings as well too. And even at the district level, how do we let our members know this is the work we're doing? And it really comes down to connection. Say I am meeting a junior fellow and letting them know, oh, there is this resource. That's why that in-person meetings are so valuable, because you're actually getting to meet with networks, and maybe that inspires you to join a committee or go to this different volunteer opportunity. Because ACOG is doing the work, it's our job to make sure, as ACOG representatives, really, to make sure that we are sharing the work that ACOG is doing. And we started doing that on different district levels too, where the junior fellows who are involved in ACOG get to take it back to the residency program. And I created the series that's called What ACOG is Doing for You. It's had various different names through all the iterations of people that have come before me. But just a 5-slide presentation stating, this is what ACOG has. Did you know ACOG has life insurance? Did you know ACOG has disability insurance? Do you know that ACOG has loan support too? People are like, no, I had no idea. Let's do a better job of advertising those. So,
yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, no, I think it's such a good point. It's like you're too young for that song, but what have you done for me lately? It's like, what have you done for me lately? But like, there is a lot of stuff, but we just don't know about it. And
I listen to 80s in the OR. It's on my card.
That's hilarious. But yeah, like it is one of those things where you're just like, okay, you have to let people know what is happening. But now it's hard to communicate, because it's like, if it's via email, it's so overwhelming to get the emails.
I'll be the first to admit that it's very hard to get through emails. I mean, we get like 100 emails a day between all the various societies. And then whether you're in training, your residency program, or, your job, different department schedules, it is so hard to go through emails. So
I know.
ACOG is working on really solidifying it, and the rounds are really the major things that you need to know. It's the legislative wins, it's the updates, it's the new clinical practice guidelines, all in this convenient format that I'll actually bookmark certain ones and I'll go back to them. Like one of the things we'll say, the Spanish translation project. I'm like, wait a minute, this is a video about preeclampsia release in Spanish. I need to bookmark that so I can send it to a patient.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't think I've signed up for these rounds. I get the district emails like every couple of days, so I'll read through those, but I don't know if is that something like I have to check off on the website or something?
Yep.
Okay, maybe I opted out of those emails.
Well, if I'm here, and I get to spread the awareness of ACOG rounds to the incredible communications team, the Marcom team. Shout out to you guys at ACOG for doing all this incredible work.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I mean, there's so many. And the thing is, there's no other organization who is really like has the legislative support, I guess I would say, because having been involved in the other societies, we have like a liaison. But I think that like ACOG and ACS have big teams that are based in DC who like advocate for these issues like payment or legislative stuff on the state level. It's interesting because a lot of smaller societies will partner to try and, advance the platform. But I think that's one thing that I find interesting, because OBGYNs, we have our little societies, but then AUA, the urologists, that's like their main meeting. So it's such a different setup. Yes, they have smaller societies like SUO, the Society of Urologic Oncology, or whatever, the smaller societies, but I don't know, it's interesting. It's just a much different setup, because most of the urologists do attend AUA. Like ACOG, I know that the meeting has gotten smaller over time, and so I think we're struggling.
It's definitely gotten more compact. Like it used to be 5. Are you talking about the annual clinical scientific meeting?
Yes.
I was told it used to be 5 days, which for me sounds like a dream. But, and listening to the member needs and the reality is very difficult to get 5 days off from a clinical service or rotation, or even from life if you are managing things like childcare. So the meeting was cut down to 3 days, and it is jam-packed full of educational material. This year, there's been 6 different pillars assigned as topic focuses. So it kind of incorporates what you're saying about some of the smaller society work. Like there's a whole pillar dedicated to menopause. There's a whole pillar dedicated to critical care obstetrics. So it's kind of like that comprehensive, but listening to the work of our subspecialty organizations as well, to. I've actually never been to AUA, but it sounds very fun.
Yeah, I think I've been there once, but it was great. It was a huge, huge meeting. But, I think that it's like, we see this across the board, though. It's like we're probably 75-80% female. I don't know what the stats are at ACOG. Maybe it's less or more than that, but that's my guess.
Yeah, I actually don't know that either. I'm assuming 50.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's getting more and more female. There's, like you said, childcare. It's hard to get off of clinical duties. What's a value add? It's expensive. It has to be like super relevant topics that people connect with, and has to be fun, and all of the things. So if it conflicts with spring break, like, that's a problem. Like, if it's too close to another meeting, like, that's a problem. So I think there's all these factors that are in play, and I think the CME funds are decreasing. Time away is decreasing. So I think it's going to be very challenging. And then, what has ACOG been saying about the impending cuts after the spending bill and the Medicare cuts, like, for reimbursement after the midterms? I mean, that's going to be a lot of belt tightening across the board.
100%. And that's exactly what we're hearing from you. We're hearing across the board, especially when it comes to what members are directly saying. So I'm anticipating hearing a lot more of the developments when it comes to legislative advocacy, government affairs team at our upcoming board meeting. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that right now I'm not at liberty to disclose, but it's one of those things where I want people to know that ACOG is hearing everything that is going on. ACOG was very fortunate to have connections when it comes to places like the Hill, and definitely a need that we need to be looking into and addressing. More not the looking into part, but more so the how do we communicate that this is also at the top of line issue for us.
Well, what are some of your thoughts about, like, how do you want to parlay this experience moving forward? What advice would you give to other people who want to get more involved in ACOG?
Absolutely. I think one of the most crucial pieces of advice that I can give is apply for the opportunity, because the worst thing that happens is that you get rejected, but your name is in the committee list. For example, we're talking about things like committees, where it is notoriously difficult to get accepted to committees because of the insane high standards when it comes to the quality of applicants. So do not let one rejection get in the way of your ACOG journey. I'll share my own experience. When I was a medical student, I applied to be sponsored to the section meeting, and I didn't get in. I did not get the section sponsorship, and I was very devastated about it because I knew I wanted to get involved in ACOG. But when more opportunities came up, especially as I started in residency, I just kept applying. And through all of this, I've been very fortunate to get to the place that I have been, the position that I have been, having other different opportunities open up as well too, by nature of getting to be involved with government affairs, getting to be involved with the board of directors, getting to be involved with CREOG and the educational aspect. And it's crazy to think that my time as a junior fellow is starting to come to an end, as right now I'm physically in the case collection year. So fingers crossed, my time as a junior fellow comes to an end when I take oral boards this fall. But I don't see that as an end to my role in ACOG. I see that to getting to sunset an incredible chapter of my education and training, and then hopefully walk through the door of being an early career fellow and possibly getting more involved, starting at my district level as well too, starting at my section level, which is the Illinois section. So the other part that I wanted to share is you do not have to go full on, I need to get involved with everything too. The beauty of ACOG is there's always a path, no matter where you are. I know so many people that have joined at the fellow level, our current JFCAC advisor is very open about her joining ACOG after she finished having her kids and she was a fellow. She was a program director, more of like that mid-career to current career level position. So don't think that the only way to get involved in ACOG is, being that intern who wanted to get that community and go for it. Whether you decide to take a few years off and just enjoy the clinical material to enrich your education and your patient care and then decide to get involved, or you want to continue steady involvement, or even you want to take a year or two off and focus on something, say like a fellowship or another experience, ACOG is always going to be there for you to get involved in whatever capacity. So it's got to be something that fits in with your life, or it's going to become a burden. And ultimately, nobody wants that.
I agree with throwing your hat in the ring because honestly, sometimes the reason why you don't get chosen is just as like rudimentary as like there's two people from your city or something.
Right.
like it's geographic and it has nothing to do with you, Sivani, or me, Amy Park.
Right.
It has to do with like there happens to be another person from your city or your institution or whatever, and that has nothing to do with the actual
or there is no spot for your role.
Yeah.
And you applied because you wanted to let the organization, whichever organization, know that you were interested, but you didn't know, for instance, that there weren't any junior fellow spots from, so-and-so.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's a very arbitrary reason sometimes, not because, as I like to internalize things, not because everybody doesn't like me and
right.
That's not it. Don't let that stop you from joining.
The other thing that I do think is important is just staying visible and going to the meetings because it's out of sight, out of mind, unfortunately, for people are very elementary. And even if they like you a lot, it's like if you don't go to the meeting, then it's not that people don't think that you're not interested. We all understand that it's like life gets in the way, but it's like if you've shown a record of showing up, I think that says a lot, actually. So yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying.
Your presence is a present, really.
Yes, exactly.
Such a cliche, but it totally is.
It totally is. No, I agree with you. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I love hearing about all the journeys and also the motivation because it just makes me just maintain hope and know that there's engaged people like you fighting the good fight and, continuing the work that needs to be done on all the organizational levels because it is competition for our time and attention. And there's just so much talent out there. And the fact that you chose ACOG to dedicate your talents to is like, it means that it's super special, and you're making it super special. And that's what I would say to people who are volunteering. I mean, the other thing is it's like church, right? Like church, religion, people make it cool because they make it cool. You know what I mean? Like because of their efforts, just like school, just like any kind of organization. So I totally think that, some people don't like religion, but I don't know if that's a good analogy, but these things are only good because
I think it conveyed.
Like you can make it what you want it to be. And if you have that vision and the ideas, and also you can materially improve people's experience, the stuff that you're saying that you got involved in the projects, it sounds like you were addressing a gap and a need.
Exactly. And it starts with, even if there's the majority of the time, people have identified the gaps, whether it's an issue with emailing different members of your section, or if it's even something like community service project that you want to raise awareness for. Your residency program, for instance, works with a great local community service organization. Well, did you know if you partnered with the ACOG Foundation, you might actually be able to raise more money when it comes to donations? And they vet the organization too. So if anything that I'm able to do, me, the other junior fellows that get to be involved with ACOG, spreads awareness of opportunities, then I get to consider my job a little bit more done. There's still a great amount of work to do, but if I'm able to connect somebody with an opportunity that they're looking for or didn't know that they were looking for, that's what keeps me going. And getting to do that for patient care, that's the goal.
I love that. Well, keep on your work as a potentiator and connector, and stay in touch. And I'm looking forward to hearing what your new adventures are. Are you going to stay on the CPG committee, or are you moving on?
I would love to stay on the CPG committee, but like everybody, I have to apply.
Oh, got it. Well, you'll get there. And yes, please feel free to reach out to Sivani.
I'll drop my email.
Okay.
100%. I'm actually, to advertise, I'm doing a no Instagram challenge in January 2026. I might break the streak to advertise this podcast, but I needed to take a break from social media. 2025 was getting rough. Yeah, so I'm doing a little bit of a digital detox.
You're doing a dry January.
Yeah, it's my dry January, and it's changed my nighttime routine already, I'll tell you that. I started reading more. It's been 6 days into January when we're recording this.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
So it goes to show you, sometimes we need breaks too, and this is my little mini break.
Awesome. Take care, okay?
Thank you for having me.
All right. Toodles.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, make sure to follow the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and share with a friend. If you have any questions or comments, direct message us at _BackTable OBGYN on Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn. BackTable OBGYN is hosted by myself, Mark Hoffman,
and Amy Park.
Our production team is led by Kieran Gannon,
Aaron Bowles,
Gabe DeGrazio,
and Josh Spencer.
Design and digital marketing led by Brian Schmitz, with support from
Taylor Spurgeon Hess and Yvonne Orvajinsky.
Show notes and social media by Emma Landenwich
and Lindsay Beecham.
Administrative support provided by Judy Dela Cruz.
Music written and performed by Scott Baby Daddy Hoffman.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests on BackTable OBGYN are their own, and do not reflect the views or positions of their employers or any entities they represent.